Look at the tag on your shirt. Look at the phone in your hand. Look at the coffee in your cup. Chances are none of these things came entirely from the United States. We live in a global web. The U.S. Navy patrols the oceans to keep trade routes open. U.S. diplomats manage relationships in every capital city. But many Americans are tired. They're tired of spending billions on foreign aid. They're tired of global conflicts. They want to focus on home. So, imagine a president is elected with a single radical promise. Total withdrawal. Imagine it's January 20th, 2026. The order is given. Every U.S. soldier stationed abroad, in Germany, Japan, Korea, the Middle East, is ordered to pack up and come home. Every embassy is closed. Every trade treaty is cancelled. The borders are sealed, not just to people, but to goods. Welcome to Fortress America. In this simulation, we're going to explore what happens if the world's superpower simply quits. Does it create a golden age of American prosperity? Or does it lead to a collapse of the standard of living that sends us back to the 1950s? To understand this shift, we have to look at the economy. We're told that made in America is the goal. But the reality of isolation is a shock to the system. Let's follow a character to see how this affects regular life. Meet Ben. He's a small business owner in Ohio. He runs a store that sells electronics and home gadgets. He's a patriot. He voted for the withdrawal. He thinks it will bring jobs back to his town. On day one of the isolation, the ports of Los Angeles and New York stop accepting foreign container ships. The supply chain is cut. Ben goes to his shop. He tries to order new inventory, laptops, TVs, smartwatches. His supplier sends a message. Order cancelled. Source unavailable. Ben realizes something terrifying. America designs technology, but we don't manufacture the components. The chips come from Taiwan, the screens come from Korea, the assembly happens in China. Without global trade, there are no new iPhones, there are no new PlayStations, there are no new Fords, because even American cars rely on parts from Mexico and Germany. The shelves in Ben's store empty out in 2 weeks. He can't restock. He has to lay off his staff. The policy he supported has just destroyed his livelihood. This is the first phase. The consumer crash. Prices skyrocket. Hyperinflation hits specific sectors. A laptop that used to cost $800 now costs $5,000 because it's a rare item. But it's not just tech. Let's talk about food. The US produces plenty of corn and beef. We won't starve. But the variety vanishes. Coffee? Gone. We don't grow it, except a little in Hawaii. Chocolate? Gone. Bananas? Gone. Avocados? Gone. The American diet changes overnight. It becomes bland. It becomes seasonal. You eat potatoes and bread. Coffee becomes a luxury status symbol, traded on the black market for $100 a bag. But the government has a plan. They announce the Re-Industrialization Act. They tell the people, hold on. We are building new factories. We will make our own chips. We will make our own clothes. And it's true. Factories start opening in the Rust Belt. Detroit and Cleveland boom again. Unemployment drops to zero because the country needs millions of workers to make the things we used to import. But there's a catch. Labor in America is expensive. When you buy a shirt made in Vietnam, it costs $15. When that same shirt is made in Ohio by a worker earning an American wage with benefits, that shirt costs $80. So Americans have jobs, but they are poorer. Their paycheck is bigger, but it buys much less. The standard of living drops. The era of cheap consumption is over. We become a nation that repairs old things instead of buying new ones. While America is busy rebuilding its factories, what is happening to the rest of the world? This is the domino effect. When the US military leaves Europe and Asia, a massive power vacuum is created. The global police officer has gone off duty. In Europe, without the US security guarantee, nations panic. They have to triple their military spending overnight. Social programs are cut to pay for tanks. The European Union faces a crisis of stability. In Asia, the balance of power shifts instantly. Without the US Navy patrolling the South China Sea, major powers in the region expand their influence. Smaller nations are forced to sign unfavorable treaties with their larger neighbors. the map begins to change. Global trade routes become dangerous. Without the US Navy protecting shipping lanes, piracy returns to the oceans. Insurance rates for ships skyrocket. Global trade shrinks by 50%. The world economy enters a deep depression. Ben, watching the limited news in Ohio, sees reports of conflicts in Europe and Asia. But for the first time in 80 years, no American soldiers are involved. "Not our problem," the news anchor says, and there is a sense of relief. Mothers don't have to worry about their sons being deployed. The national debt stabilizes because the government isn't spending trillions on foreign wars. But isolation creates a new kind of danger: the resource crisis. Modern technology requires rare earth minerals, lithium for batteries, cobalt for phones. America has some of these, but not enough. By now, the servers are disconnected. The cultural exchange stops. American movies are no longer watched globally. American music stops influencing the world. We become a giant version of a hermit kingdom, safe but stagnant. By year 10, a new equilibrium is reached. The United States is a strange place. It's incredibly self-sufficient. We grow our own food. We make our own expensive cars. We have our own slower internet. The culture has shifted. People are more community-focused because the global world is gone. Patriotism is high. The us versus them mentality is the standard. But Ben looks at his children. They have never tasted a pineapple. They have never met a foreigner. They think the world ends at the shoreline. They are safe, but are they free? Innovation slows down. Ideas need cross-pollination to grow. Without immigrants bringing new perspectives, without competition from global companies, American industry becomes lazy. The cars we build are reliable, but outdated compared to what is being built in Europe or Asia. And then, the final threat emerges. The world outside, initially chaotic, has organized into new alliances. A global coalition has formed without the United States, and they are angry. They blame the US for the economic crash that happened when we left. They blame us for the chaos. They impose sanctions on Fortress America. They refuse to sell us the few things we still need, like specific medical isotopes or rare minerals. Ben realizes that you cannot truly isolate yourself on a shared planet. The clouds still drift over the border. The viruses still cross the oceans. The climate still changes. The fortress walls are high, but the roof is open. Eventually, the pressure becomes too much. The younger generation, tired of high prices and limited technology, begins to demand a reopening. They see pirated satellite signals showing the outside world, futuristic cities, new inventions, global festivals, and they feel left behind. The political pendulum swings back. This simulation teaches us a complex lesson. Globalization has problems. It causes job losses. It creates dependency. But total isolation is not the cure. We traded self-sufficiency for wealth and variety. Going back is possible, but the price tag is enormous. It would mean a simpler, harder, smaller life. So, I have a question for you. Would you accept this trade? Would you give up cheap electronics, coffee, and global travel in exchange for bringing all the troops home and restoring American manufacturing jobs? Would you be happy in a fortress America, safe but alone? Or do you believe that America's strength comes from its connection to the world? Let me know in the comments. Are you an isolationist or a globalist? And if you think a shrinking America is an interesting scenario, wait until you see the opposite. What if the United States didn't retreat, but expanded? What if we fulfilled the vision of manifest destiny and annexed Canada, Mexico, and the Caribbean? What if the US flag had 100 stars? We simulated the rise of the North American superstate in this video right here. Click it and see how big the empire could get.